Hello and welcome. Today we're looking at COVID-19 vaccines and the reporting of adverse reactions, if there are any. Now, we were already familiar with the VAERS system in the US and the yellow card system in the UK, but we hadn't come across EUDRA, the European version for the EMA, the European Medicines Agency. We found her in July last year. We're not looking at this from a scientific point of view. We're not scientists. We're looking at it from a human perspective. People who put in the report. Why are they reporting? What outcomes have been listed? How easy is it to report? People are not just numbers in a database, and we tend to lose sight of that. Now, EUDRA contains over 6,000 records of pharmaceutical products that are licensed for use in the European Union at this time. It's a huge database. So huge that when I first came across it in July last year, it took me all afternoon to find my way through to the point I was looking for, that is the outcomes, what's happening. I ran out of time and didn't have time to get the data I needed. So I decided to go back in January this year, and I made time for it this time. And I also knew where to look. It went much quicker, and I came away that afternoon with the full set of data for all of the vaccines applicable to COVID, 13 in total, time-stamped the 10th of December 2023. We added up the numbers and put them all together, and the numbers were surprising, to say the least. To double cross-check our methods and our numbers, we updated the data again in June this year. This time the data was time-stamped 26th of May 2024, and those are the numbers we're looking at later on. And what follows is a visual log of that last update, and you're watching it to make sure we got it right. And you're watching it to make sure there's no monkey business. We've removed all the tedious bits, all of the cut and paste and click, click, click. And you're going to get the answers in less than 15 minutes to what took us days and days to put together. Now, we're not making any claims here. They're just simple observations. What exists at this point in time, or at the time that was stamped on the data when we took it. There are, however, two specific observations at the end of the piece that we'd like you to have a look at, as they're very relevant. Now then, getting back to EUDRA and pharmacovigilance. What is pharmacovigilance? Brian, have you got a definition? You've got one handy, haven't you? Yes? Okay, I'm going to hand you over to Brian for a moment. He's going to be our host for the afternoon, and be gentle with him, he's new. He's very young, he's a little bit artificial, but he's bloody intelligent. And we don't have to pay him any money. I think you heard that.
Yes, I did. Pharmacovigilance is the process and science of monitoring the safety of medicines and taking action to reduce the risks and increase the benefit.
That was excellent, Brian. Well done. Word perfect. Well, you've got the job. Carry on, carry on.
Thanks, Tony. Before we start, be aware this is raw data. No investigations or follow-ups in any form, so the numbers we use do not prove causation or any other direct relationship with the COVID vaccines. This material needs to be studied in great detail before relationships can be established. By opening the main EUDRA search page, we see two options: products and substances. COVID vaccines come under substances. Scrolling down that page, we reach the COVID vaccine group, where we can see 14 vaccines are currently approved by the EMA for use in the European community. Selecting the top one, a Moderna vaccine called elasamaran, we go straight to the data. 6 tabs containing data and the 7th labelled line listing. In tab 1, there are 3 different tables for individual cases by age, by sex, and by country of origin. Raw data on report numbers only with no outcomes. Tab 2 shows individual cases over time, in this case from June 2023 to end of May 2024. Tab 3 shows the distribution of these reports geographically. Tab 4 introduces us to reaction groups, with the number of individual cases against each group, colour barcoded for age. There are 28 reaction groups, which are used throughout the EUDRA systems. Within tab 4, we see 5 sub-tabs by age, by sex, by seriousness, by reporting group, and by geographic origin. Tab 5 again looks at the individual cases, this time by age group and sex, the reporting group and the geographical origin. In tab 6 we find outcomes, split into the 28 reaction groups. To find the total number of outcomes for this particular vaccine, it is necessary to gather the numbers from all 28 groups separately.
So now we have the results of the first vaccine on the list, elasamaran by Moderna. All we have to do now is repeat this process 13 more times. Oh joy. Let's just pause for a moment and digest the contents of what we're seeing here. They are the last known outcomes reported to EUDRA as of the 26th of May this year, 2024. 2.3 million individual reports mentioning over 6 million reactions from the 28 different reaction groups in the database. There are 2 observations we'd like to make at this time. The first one is a well-known issue about under-reporting. EUDRA in Europe, like VAERS in the US and the yellow card scheme in the UK, are known as passive reporting systems. Nobody goes out looking for affected individuals. It's left to them and their carers or doctors to bring the data to EUDRA. In 2011, a gentleman by the name of Ross Lazarus obtained a substantial grant from the American government to study how underreporting was affecting vaccine uptake and vaccine reception. This is the front sheet of the report he made. And this is the result sheet from that report. From it, we can understand that adverse events from drugs and vaccines are common, yet underreported. With regard to vaccines, fewer than 1% of vaccine adverse events are reported, while others have indicated it could be 10%. With 1% underreporting, then 99% are not reported. And with 10% underreporting, then 90% are not reported. It's important to understand that relationship. Once the study was concluded, the CDC contacts ceased to be available. In fact, they seem to have evaporated. The second observation we have to make is that members of the public and medical personnel respond to these systems voluntarily. That is the meaning of a passive system. The vaccine manufacturers, on the other hand, are required to pass all data they receive on adverse events directly to pharmacovigilance databases. It's a condition of their license. This is a double-edged sword. While it does increase the information flow, you have to remember that the people who are manufacturing the product have the most to lose by passing on adverse event reports about that product. Here is a small extract from an excellent book called Turtles All the Way Down. I believe it's on page 111. Another noteworthy weakness of VAERS is the fact that most reports are not verified by system operators after they are filed. Many turn out to be inaccurate, implausible, or lacking critical details which make them scientifically unusable. In the bin. Thus, these records are typically omitted from statistical analysis performed on VAERS data. This artificially lowers calculated adverse event rates, which, as we've seen, are already biased downwards due to severe underreporting. Reports submitted by manufacturers are particularly likely to be incomplete or inaccurate. For obvious reasons, manufacturers have no motivation to document vaccine adverse events properly. Because they are legally required to pass on any reports they receive, their lack of motivation often manifests in poor reporting quality, missing or incorrect information, vague and inaccurate wording, and the like. Thus, a big question mark hovers over the credibility of at least 37% of VAERS reports which originate from vaccine manufacturers. We have seen these numbers before, from earlier on. Let's call them Scenario 1, the raw data exactly as reported to EUDRA. But we've heard it claimed that such databases, in a good light, can be shown to record only 10% of the cases, meaning that Scenario 2 would look like this. If we take it to the extreme indicated by Mr. Lazarus in his report, that only 1% of cases are being reported, then Scenario 3 looks like this. The very fact that we are having this conversation seems to raise grave doubts as to whether passive reporting systems are worth the bandwidth they occupy. Well, for me, that wraps it up. It's not for us to comment here. We report this simply to raise awareness. So thanks for your attention. We must do this again sometime.